how do we name binary molecular compounds? Okay, there's 3 rules. To name a binary molecular compound, use the following guidelines. 1. Write the name of the element in order listed in the formula. 2. Use prefixes appropriately to indicate the number of each kind of atom. Step 3. End the name of a second element with suffix IDE. Okay, if we look at the prefixes over here, the prefix for 1 is mono, prefix for 2 is di, prefix for 3 is tri, prefix for 4 is tetra, prefix for 5 is penta, prefix for 6 is hexa, prefix for 7 is hepta, prefix for 8 is octa, prefix for 9 is nona, prefix for 10 is deca. So I'm going to provide some sample problems. Okay, so the first one is CO2. So we have to look at our periodic table and find C, carbon, and O, oxygen. Okay, so we got carbon and oxygen. And now we got to determine, so C is carbon, and then O is oxygen. Now, keep in mind, oxygen is going to change to oxide. And then we write the prefixes in front of it. So the first one is carbon. And in chemistry, for the first nonmetal, they don't use the prefix mono. So you don't have to say monocarbon, it's just carbon. The oxygen becomes oxide. And keep in mind how many oxygens we have? 2. What's the prefix for 2? Is di. So it's carbon dioxide. Okay, second element, N and O. Okay, if we look at the periodic table, N stands for nitrogen, O stands for oxygen. Keep in mind that the second nonmetal changes the suffix to IDE. So how many nitrogens we got? We got 2. The prefix for 2 is di. So it's dinitrogen. And then how many O's we have? 1. There's no prefix, there's no subscript, so just 1. So it's mono, because the prefix for 1 is mono. And then oxygen becomes oxide. So it's dinitrogen monoxide. Okay, PCl3. P stands for phosphorus. Cl stands for chlorine. Keep in mind, the second nonmetal changes the suffix to IDE, so chlorine becomes chloride. And then we only have 1 phosphorus and 3 chlorines. So it's going to be, keep in mind, for the first element, no prefix mono is required. So it's just phosphorus. And then how many chlorines we have? 3. The prefix for 3 is tri. So it's phosphorus, tri, and then chlorine becomes chloride. Okay, next one, OF2. Okay, O stands for oxygen, F stands for fluorine. Fluorine becomes fluoride. We have 1 oxygen, so for the first one, we don't need to write monooxygen, just oxygen. And then how many F's we have? 2. So the prefix for 2 is di. And then fluorine becomes fluoride. Okay, let's look at the next one. We got S and F. S stands for sulfur, F stands for fluorine. Fluorine's gonna become fluoride. But let's look up the prefix. How many sulfurs we got? 2. So the prefix for 2 is di. And then how many fluorides we have? We have 10. So 10 is deca. So it's going to be disulfur. The first name does not change. The second one changes, fluorine becomes fluoride. So, and how many do we have? 10. So the prefix for 10 is deca. Deca fluoride. And the last one, we got 1 sulfur and 3 oxygens. So we don't have to put the prefix mono for the first element, but we do for the second element if we have just one. So it's sulfur, and then how many oxygens? 3. The prefix for 3 is tri, and then oxygen becomes oxide. So sulfur trioxide. Okay, so this is how you name binary molecular compounds, which are made out of nonmetals. Okay, let's do the second part of this chapter, which is writing formulas writing formulas for molecular compounds. Okay, so to write the formulas for molecular compounds, you have to write the formula. To write the formula of molecular compounds, first use the prefixes in the name to tell you the subscript of each element in the formula. So you got to look at the prefixes first. Then write the correct symbol for the 2 elements with the appropriate subscripts. Okay, so let's practice some problems. Okay, so the first one is nitrogen trifluoride. So nitrogen, what's the symbol for nitrogen? The symbol for nitrogen is N. And then fluorine is fluoride is fluorine, so the symbol is F. And since it's no prefix here, it's just 1 nitrogen. And then fluoride, trifluoride. So tri, the prefix tri means 3. So we have 3 fluorines and 1 nitrogen. So nitrogen is N, and we have F for fluorine. And how many fluorides we have? 3. So it's NF3. Let's do the next one. Disulfur dichloride. So di means 2. So we got 2 sulfurs. And we have dichloride. So chloride is chlorine. How many chlorines? 2. S2Cl2. Okay, let's look at the next one. Di-nitrogen tetraoxide. So di means 2. Tetra means 4, so we have 2 nitrogens, and then we have 4 oxygens, so N2O4. Let's look at the next one, xenon tetrafluoride. So here we have no prefix, so just 1. Tetra is 4, so we have 4 fluorines. So the symbol for xenon is Xe, symbol for fluoride is F, and we have 4 fluorines, so it's XeF4. Let's look at the next one. Di means 2. Deca means 10. So we have 2 sulfurs and 10 fluorides, or fluorine atoms. So S2, symbol for fluorine is F. We have 10 of it, so it's S2F10.